What's up, everybody? My name's Eric. I'm a leadership coach, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about emotional intelligence. So, I gave a workshop on this topic yesterday. It was called Owning Your Shit, and I forgot to record it. So, I'm just going to give a quick, brief overview of the content that I talked about. If people want to talk about this more, I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to reach out to me, email, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever. So, let me just dive right into it. My approach to leadership in general is about figuring out ways that we can make leadership something that we practice. I feel like so often it's about people like read books and we like understand all these concepts, but it's a very cognitive practice. And what I'm suggesting and what I'm hoping this practice can help us do is take a very theoretical idea like emotional intelligence and turn it from an idea in our heads into a feeling in our bones, in our marrow. So I'm all about trying to get that to a deep place. So what I taught in the workshop yesterday, what I'm going to share briefly here today, is one practice for getting better at emotional intelligence. So in the big picture, what's going to help you do this? Really what comes down to is a regular practice, something like 5 or 10 minutes a day. And this practice that I'm talking about involves writing down your emotions and experiencing them non-judgmentally. So the purpose of this exercise is to build the muscle of sustained, non-judgmental, present moment awareness. The purpose of this exercise is not about changing your emotions or getting over your emotions. And so I'm like confused about how this is going to show up in the recording, but hopefully you all can see the slides. I've got a quote here from Carl Jung where he says, "No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots can reach down to hell." So this practice that I've designed and collected from another different places is really about learning how to love our roots as much as our branches. So the first step of this practice is to bring to mind a situation about which you still have strong feelings. And to clarify, when I say feelings, what I'm talking about are physical sensations in response to thoughts. So when I think about this thing happening, when I think about this pleasant experience, this unpleasant experience, I feel things. Maybe I feel excited. What does that excitement feel like inside of my body? What we're looking for here is the physical sensations, the physical experience of feeling something. And a quick note on this, it doesn't matter how recent the event was. This could be something that happened 5 years ago. It could be something that happened 5 minutes ago. What really matters is the strength of the emotions that you feel when you think about that thing right now. So we're not thinking about what we felt 5 minutes ago or 5 years ago when the thing happened. We are focused on what we feel now as we think about that thing. When we bring this thing to mind, what does it feel like? So this is the first step, is coming up with the situation that you want to focus on. The second step is we want to get all up in those feelings. We want to steep ourselves in the feels, so to speak. So what do I mean by that? I mean focusing on the physical sensation. I mean remembering that while these sensations might be unpleasant, that they're harmless and impermanent. And focusing on the feeling, not so much thinking about them. So things that we want to avoid doing are judging ourselves, saying that I shouldn't feel this way. Things that we want to avoid doing are running away from those feelings by focusing on something else or getting stuck in our head by thinking about the thing rather than experiencing it directly. So to do this, what I would suggest that you do is you take a second right now to think of one of those situations. And as you're thinking of that situation, I'd invite you to get into something like a meditative posture. I feel like it can be useful for something like this. You don't have to do it, but the posture that I like to adapt is a straight back, a firm connection to the ground, whether that's standing, sitting. You don't want to be too comfortable laying down, probably wouldn't be ideal for this. But I'm just sitting in a desk with my feet flat on the ground, my back is straight, I'm not slumping, I'm not leaning against anything. I'm just leaning straight up. I'm going to take a couple deep breaths. Trying to relax as much as I can. Bringing that situation to mind. Noticing what arises for me inside of my body, physically. Not what does it make me think, not what what are the rabbit hole of thoughts that this thing is taking me down, but just what do I feel as I think about this situation? Do I feel a tightness, a heaviness, a looseness, dizziness? Where do I feel it? Am I feeling it in? Am I feeling it in my chest? Am I feeling it in my forehead? Am I feeling it in my shoulders, in my neck, my back? As much as possible, try to bring 100% of your awareness and your attention into the felt experience of that emotion, of those feelings. And you can stay with this part of the process as long as you want, whenever you're ready. If you want to stay with this, you might want to pause the video, but whenever you're ready to move on, the third step is to write down the name, or to come up with a name to describe the emotions that you're experiencing. So here I have this very useful emotion feeling wheel that sort of starts out at the center with more generalized feelings, like something like joy, which you can see is then broken down into several different categories of enthralled, optimistic, cheerful. And then cheerful is further broken down into jovial versus blissful. The deeper that you get in the outside of this rim, I guess I should say, the more meaning those words are likely to have for you. So if you only feel comfortable in the center of the ring with the more generic words like fear or anger, that's totally fine. But I encourage you to look at the outer rings and see if there's any words there that really resonate with what you're feeling. Most people are pretty poorly versed in this kind of vocabulary, and that's totally normal because most people don't really talk about their feelings, and most people don't feel comfortable sharing their feelings. So the more you practice this, the more fluent that you'll become. So just in a nutshell, this third step is really writing down some feeling words that resonate with what you're feeling right now. And finally, the fourth step is to, from that list of words that you've chosen, is to pick a few of the words that resonate the most with your current feelings. And just like we did in the second step, as much as possible, allowing those emotions to freely flow through you. So that means without running away from them, without judging them, without clinging them. All that we're doing is observing these emotions non-judgmentally. So I'll give us a second to do that. Remembering again, it'd be useful to adapt some kind of a meditative posture, whatever that means for you. Relax your body as much as you're willing to, as much as your body will allow itself to be relaxed. Maybe taking a couple deep breaths. And allowing the sensation of those feelings to wash over you. Allowing your attention to focus on those feelings. As much as possible, avoiding thinking about them. Avoiding thinking about why I'm feeling this way, or what does this mean? Or, oh, it's in this part of my body. Does it mean that thing? Or should I see a doctor about this feeling? Is this normal? We want to avoid all of that. As much as possible, just putting our attention on the felt sensation, on the feeling, on the physical sensation of what's happening. And a quick note on this, I'm not talking about wallowing in those feelings if they happen to be negative feelings that you're dealing with. I would call wallowing feeling bad about feeling bad, and that involves a certain level of judgment. What we're talking about here is just if bad is what you happen to be feeling right now, it's just experiencing that. What does bad feel like? Being as objective as we can with that, trying to observe it like a scientist observing an experiment in a lab. So that's the process in a nutshell. The first step is you identify the situation that you want to focus on. The second step is steeping yourself in the feelings associated with the thought about that situation. The third step is then using those feelings to choose some words to help label those emotions, to help label what it is that you might be feeling. And then the fourth step is you basically repeating the same thing that you did in step 2, except using those words as kind of an anchor. So some important points. What might happen during this exercise? Your feelings might get weaker, your feelings might get stronger, or maybe nothing at all might happen. So this exercise, during the context of this exercise, what happens is not super important because this is a long-term exercise. This is about developing a muscle. And just like lifting weights, you shouldn't expect that after one time of lifting weights, all of a sudden you're going to be ripped. That's not how this works. That's not how any skill really works for that. This is about something that you practice in the long run. What will happen in the long run is greater self-awareness, greater empathy, greater emotional resilience, and a greater depth to your life. So sometimes emotions might run their course during the course of this exercise, but often it's not going to happen that quickly. This is, again, I want to emphasize, this is really focusing on a long-term growth, long-term change in the way that you deal with yourself and your relationship with yourself and your relationship with your feelings. And then ultimately that's going to spread out to every relationship that you have, because of course the relationship with yourself is the foundation to the relationship that you have with anybody else in this world. So that's it. I'll stop it there. I would love to see you at the next workshop. There's going to be another one on Sunday, October 11th. It's going to be focused on attention restoration theory. Do a Google search for that. It's super fascinating stuff, and also very practical. It's basically all about how to stop your brain from getting super tired, how to prevent that from happening, or if it does happen, what you can do about it. Again, I'm a leadership coach. If you know anyone who's looking for a coach, have them reach out to me. Feel free to reach out to me yourself. My email is info@ericcouillard.com. If you want to support these workshops that I'm doing, I would love it if you would become my patron on Patreon. My handle here is Practicing Leadership, and that's the same thing for coffee. If you want to buy me a coffee, it's ko-fi.com/practicing leadership. Patreon is patreon.com/practicing leadership. And if you want to be informed about workshops coming up in the future, I'd love it if you join my mailing list. You can find that on my website, ericcouillard.com/mailing-list. And I'll post all these links as well so that you can click on them and you don't have to type it all out. But anyways, thanks a lot for watching, and I hope to see you at the next workshop. Until then.